Captain Jack Miller stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, staring at the massive space station that hung against the backdrop of stars. The station was a marvel of engineering, a spinning wheel of light and metal that housed the headquarters of the Galactic Concordat. After 30 years of humans traveling among the stars, they had finally been invited to meet with the 12 most advanced species in the known universe. "Captain, we're receiving docking instructions," said Lisa, the communications officer. Her voice was steady, but Jack could hear the excitement underneath. "Follow their lead," he ordered. "And remember what Command told us. Best behavior, everyone. We're the new kids here." The Defiant was humanity's pride, a warship that combined Earth's best technology with lessons learned from their first contacts. It wasn't the biggest or most advanced ship in space, but humans had a knack for making things work in unexpected ways. As the ship eased into the docking bay, Jack straightened his uniform and took a deep breath. This meeting could change everything for Earth. The Concordat controlled trade routes, shared technology, and kept peace across thousands of star systems. Humans needed a seat at that table. "Docking complete, Captain," reported Ben, the pilot. "External atmosphere reads normal." "Good. Dr. Reynolds, Lieutenant Reed, you're with me. The rest of you, standard protocol. Keep the ship ready." Emma Reynolds, the ship's chief science officer, nodded. She had been studying the Concordat species for years and knew more about them than anyone else on board. Thomas Reed, head of cybersecurity, looked less comfortable. He preferred his computers to diplomatic meetings. "Just to be clear," Reed said quietly as they walked toward the airlock, "we're still running the Pandora system, right?" Jack nodded once, slightly. "Standard procedure for all military vessels. But let's hope we don't need it." The three officers stepped through the airlock and were greeted by a long curved hallway. The walls glowed with soft blue light that seemed to come from nowhere. At the end stood three figures, representatives sent to escort them. "Humans," said the tallest figure, voice translated through the small devices in the humans' ears. "I am Nyx of the Vex." The Vex were one of the oldest species in the Concordat, tall gray beings with 4 arms and skin that looked like polished stone. Their civilization had been traveling space when humans were still figuring out agriculture. "This is Trell of the Meridians," Nyx continued, gesturing to a shorter being with blue-green skin and large black eyes. The Meridians were known for their analytical minds and advanced scanning technology. "And Saren of the Elders." The third figure was hard to focus on, shifting and changing slightly, as if made of light and shadow rather than flesh. The Elders were the most mysterious species, so ancient that some said they had watched stars being born. "Welcome," said Saren, voice somehow both soft and powerful. "Your presence was requested." Emma caught the slight hesitation. "We're honored to be invited," she said carefully. "Some would disagree with that honor." Trell of the Meridians said, their words precise and clipped. "Your species is quite young, barely a century in space. Some question what you have to offer the Concordat." Jack smiled diplomatically. "We're eager to show what humanity can bring to the table." "Indeed," Nyx said, without warmth. "The reception is this way." They followed their guides through winding corridors filled with beings from across the galaxy. Some looked almost human, while others defied description. Beings of crystal, light, or shapes that hurt the eye to look at directly. The main reception hall was a vast chamber with a transparent ceiling that showed the stars and nearby planets. Representatives from all 12 major species mingled, while smaller, less powerful species, like humans, stood in groups on the edges. "Stay close," Jack told his officers. "Remember what we discussed. Friendly but cautious." For the next hour, they navigated the complex waters of galactic politics. Some representatives were curious about humans, asking questions about Earth and human culture. Others ignored them completely, as if they were too insignificant to notice. The Vex representative, Nyx, watched them from across the room with what Jack thought might be distaste, though it was hard to read expressions on that stone-like face. "The Vex don't think we should be here," Emma whispered. "They believe species should evolve for at least 1,000,000 years before joining galactic politics." "We've been around plenty long," Jack replied. "Just because we didn't get to the stars as quickly doesn't mean we don't belong here." "The elders seem to think differently," Thomas noted, glancing at Saren, who was observing them with that shifting, shadowy gaze. "They're the ones who pushed for our invitation, according to intel. The question is why," Emma said. Before Jack could respond, a commotion broke out near the entrance to the hall. A younger Meridian, recognizable by the blue-green skin, had approached the human diplomatic team that had arrived separately. The Meridian was holding what looked like a small device, pointing it at the humans. "Captain," Thomas said urgently, "I think that's a scanner." Jack frowned. All diplomatic teams had been briefed about scanners. The Concordat had strict rules about scanning other species without permission, rules that existed for good reasons. "Let's get over there," Jack said, moving quickly through the crowd. Before they could reach the scene, a sharp cry cut through the hall. The young Meridian had collapsed to the floor, the scanning device clattering beside them. Their body was shaking, and their large black eyes had rolled back, showing only white. The human diplomats looked shocked but not surprised. They stepped back as other Meridians rushed to help their fallen comrade. Trell pushed through the crowd, their normally composed face twisted with anger. "What did you do?" they demanded, facing the human diplomatic leader. "We did nothing," the diplomat replied calmly. "Your officer scanned our security detail without permission. That's against Concordat law. A simple scan cannot cause this." Trell gestured to the fallen Meridian, who was still trembling and now making small, frightened sounds. The crowd had fallen silent, all eyes on the confrontation. Jack, Emma, and Thomas arrived at the edge of the scene, watching carefully. "Perhaps," said the human diplomat, "you should ask why we included a warning about unauthorized scans in our arrival documentation." Trell's face darkened to a deep blue. "Anger," Jack guessed. "This is some kind of attack. Some weapon." The human diplomat shook their head. "No weapon. Just protection." As medical personnel took the shaking Meridian away, Jack heard them mumbling over and over. The darkness, the endless screaming, oceans of blood. Jack caught Emma's eye. The Pandora defense system had claimed its first victim at the Concordat. This diplomatic mission had just gotten much more complicated. "Captain," Thomas whispered, "I'm picking up unusual energy signatures. I think someone's scanning the Defiant." Jack's face hardened. "Patch me through to the ship. Now." The Concordat was about to learn why scanning human warships was a very, very bad idea. "All hands, battle stations, silent protocol." Jack's voice remained calm as he gave the order through his comlink. As captain, he knew panic would only make things worse. Back on the Defiant, red lights flashed silently as crew members moved quickly to their posts. Unlike the noisy alerts in old movies, modern human warships used light signals during silent protocol. Sound could give away too much emotion, and emotion was exactly what they wanted to hide right now. "Who's scanning us?" Jack asked, keeping his voice low as he, Emma, and Thomas moved to a quiet corner of the reception hall. "Meridian vessel," Thomas replied, checking the small device on his wrist. "Looks like they're trying to find out what happened to their officer." Emma shook her head. "They won't like what they find." Across the reception hall, more commotion erupted. Several Meridians were now gathered around communication devices, their normally composed faces showing signs of distress. One of them, Trell, looked directly at the human delegation. Their large black eyes narrowed. "Captain, I think we should return to the ship," Emma suggested. Jack nodded. "Agreed. But calmly. We don't want to look like we're running away." The three officers made their way toward the exit, nodding politely to the various alien representatives they passed. Jack noticed the elder, Saren, watching them with that strange, shifting gaze that seemed to see too much. "Safe journey, humans," Saren said as they passed. "We will speak again. After." The way Saren said "after" made Jack's spine tingle. It was as if the elder knew exactly what was happening. "After what?" Thomas whispered as they entered the corridor leading back to their ship. "After whoever is scanning the Defiant regrets it," Emma replied. Back aboard the Defiant, the bridge hummed with quiet tension. The main screen showed the Meridian vessel, sleek, blue-green, and much larger than their ship, positioned nearby. "Scan intensity increasing," reported Raj, the sensor officer. "They're going deep." "Let them," Jack ordered, settling into his captain's chair. "Pandora status. Armed and ready." Thomas confirmed from his station. "Package prepared for delivery." "Full crew briefing," Jack announced. "All decks." The screen changed to show all sections of the ship, where crew members paused in their duties to listen. "For those of you on your first diplomatic mission, we're about to witness why the Pandora defense system was created," Jack explained. "Right now, a Meridian vessel is conducting an unauthorized deep scan of our ship. In about 30 seconds, they're going to regret that decision." He nodded to Emma, who stood to address the crew. "The Pandora system is humanity's most classified defense protocol," she said. "After we lost 3 early colony ships to aggressive scans that stole our technology and revealed our weaknesses, Earth developed a unique countermeasure." On the screen, the Meridian ship's scan beams intensified, probing deeper into the Defiant systems. "Most species try to block scans," Emma continued. "We do something different. We let them in, and we give them something to take home." Thomas's console beeped. Pandora threshold reached. "Delivery in 3, 2, 1. The bridge fell silent. On the main screen, the scan beams from the Meridian ship flickered, then intensified, then began to pulse erratically. "Package delivered," Thomas reported. "What exactly is in that package?" asked a young crew member who had joined the ship only 2 months ago. Jack turned to face her. "Every horror movie ever made, every war documentary, every nightmare humanity has ever put to film or written down. The darkest imaginations of our entire species, compressed into a data stream that unpacks directly into their scanning systems." The young crew member's eyes widened. "But that's just entertainment to us." "Exactly," Emma nodded. "What we create for fun, for thrill, for emotional release, our darkest imaginings, are more terrifying than anything most species have ever conceived, even in actual war." On the screen, the Meridian ship's lights began to flicker. "They're trying to disconnect from the data stream," Thomas reported. "Too late. Pandora doesn't just send the data, it forces them to process it." "Will it kill them?" the young crew member asked. Jack shook his head. "No. The Pandora system isn't designed to kill, just to teach a lesson. Their medical technology will help them recover, though they'll have nightmares for a while." "Captain," Lisa called from communications, "we're being hailed by the elders." Jack raised an eyebrow. The elders rarely communicated directly with any species, let alone newcomers like humans. "On screen," he ordered. Saren's shifting face appeared, somehow both there and not there at the same time. "Captain Miller," the elder said, "we would advise you to prepare for diplomatic challenges. The Meridians are most distressed by what they have experienced." "They scanned us without permission," Jack replied. "The Concordat's own laws." "Yes," Saren interrupted. "The law is clear. But understanding often requires more than law. We suggest you prepare an explanation for the Council, one that even those who have never experienced human imagination might comprehend." The screen went dark. "They knew," Emma said quietly. "The elders knew what would happen." Jack nodded slowly. "Which means they wanted it to happen. Question is, why?" Before anyone could respond, Lisa spoke again. "Captain, emergency council session has been called. Our diplomatic team is requesting your presence, along with Dr. Reynolds, to explain the Pandora system. What about the Meridian ship? Jack asked. Returning to the station. Minimal power, Thomas reported. 3 crew members in medical stasis. Jack stood up. Thomas, you have the bridge. Emma, you're with me. Everyone else, remain at battle stations. If anyone else tries to scan us, they get the same welcome package, Thomas finished. As Jack and Emma prepared to return to the station, they passed by the ship's common area where several off-duty crew members were gathered. A display showed footage from the medical bay of the Concordat station, where the first affected Meridian was being treated. The alien was conscious now, but clearly disturbed. Its blue-green skin had paled to an almost white color, and it was restrained in what appeared to be a medical pod. They cut open their own children, the Meridian was saying, voice trembling. They imagine monsters in the dark, and then they seek them out. For pleasure. They create worlds where their own kind are hunted, tortured, consumed, and they call it entertainment. The Meridian's eyes widened suddenly, staring at something no one else could see. The human mind is not like ours. It does not just imagine victory. It imagines defeat in 1,000 horrifying ways. It does not just plan for success. It dwells in failure, pain, terror. How do they live with such thoughts? Jack turned away from the screen. Let's go explain to the council why they shouldn't peek into our minds without asking nicely first. As they walked toward the airlock, Emma looked troubled. You know, sometimes I forget how other species see us. Do you think we really are different? Darker? Jack considered this as they stepped through the airlock. Not darker, he finally said. Just prepared. We've spent our history imagining the worst so we can survive it. Turns out, that's a pretty good defense all by itself. The emergency council meeting was delayed. Jack and Emma waited in a small room off the main council chamber, listening to the raised voices beyond the door. Even through the thick walls, they could hear the Meridians demanding action against the humans. They don't sound happy, Jack said, straightening his uniform for the 3rd time. Emma was reviewing notes on her tablet. Can you blame them? 3 of their crew are still in medical stasis. From their perspective, we attacked them. They scanned us without permission, Jack reminded her. That's against their own laws. The door slid open, and a tall Vex entered. It was not Nyx, who had greeted them earlier, but another one with darker, almost black skin that gleamed like polished obsidian. I am Cora, High Commander of the Vex fleet, the alien announced. Its 4 arms were held stiffly at its sides, and its face was unreadable, like looking at a statue. Jack stood and gave a respectful nod. Captain Jack Miller, UES Defiant. Your council appearance has been postponed, Cora stated flatly. The Meridians require time to compose themselves. We understand, Emma said. We're prepared to explain our defensive measures whenever the council is ready. Cora's head tilted slightly. Defensive measures. Is that what you call it? The Meridians call it a psychic weapon. It's not a weapon, Jack replied firmly. It's information. Data. Nothing more. Cora was silent for a moment, those stone-like eyes studying them both. The Vex have existed for millions of years, Captain. We have encountered thousands of species. None have defended themselves quite like yours. Is that a compliment or a warning? Jack asked. An observation, Cora replied. You will be escorted back to your vessel. The council will reconvene tomorrow. As the Vex turned to leave, it paused. Your ship, the Defiant. It is small, primitive by our standards. Jack smiled slightly. Appearances can be deceiving. Indeed, Cora said. The Vex do not deceive, Captain. Remember that. After the alien left, Emma looked at Jack with concern. That sounded like a threat. It was, Jack agreed. Let's get back to the ship. When they returned to the Defiant, Thomas was waiting at the airlock, his face grim. Captain, we have a situation. A Vex battlecruiser just entered the nearby space. It's positioning itself at the edge of the station's defensive perimeter. Jack's jaw tightened. Show me. On the bridge, the main screen displayed the massive Vex vessel. Unlike the elegant spinning wheel of the Concordat station, the Vex ship was a thing of hard angles and sharp edges, like a mountain of dark crystal floating in space. It dwarfed the Defiant by at least 20 times. "Are they hailing us?" Jack asked. Lisa shook her head. "No communications, Captain, but they're moving into position that gives them a clear line of sight to us." "Weapons status?" "Nothing powered up," Thomas reported, "but their positioning is suggestive." Jack studied the screen. "They're positioning for a scan. They saw what happened to the Meridians, and they don't believe it. They think their technology is better." "Should we go to battle stations?" Thomas asked. Jack considered this, then shook his head. "No, that might be seen as aggressive. Standard alert only. But make sure Pandora is ready." "Always is, Captain," Thomas assured him. The minutes ticked by slowly. The bridge crew watched as the Vex battlecruiser completed its positioning maneuver, now hanging in space with its bow pointed directly at the Defiant. "Captain," Raj called from the sensor station, "I'm detecting energy buildup in the Vex ship, consistent with scanning equipment powering up." "They're really going to do it," Emma said quietly, "even after what happened to the Meridians." Jack nodded. "The Vex are proud. They believe their technology is superior. They think they can handle whatever happened to the Meridians." "They're wrong," Thomas stated flatly. The energy readings from the Vex ship spiked suddenly. "Scan initiated," Raj reported. "Much stronger than the Meridian scan. They're cutting through our outer systems like they're not even there." "Let them come," Jack said calmly. "Everyone, prepare for Pandora activation." The bridge crew braced themselves. They had all experienced the eerie silence that fell over the ship when Pandora engaged, like the whole vessel was holding its breath. "Scan penetrating to secondary systems," Raj continued. "They're moving fast, much faster than the Meridians did." Emma moved to stand beside Jack. "Their technology really is better." "Won't help them," Jack replied. Pandora threshold reached in 3, 2, 1. "Pandora active," Thomas announced. The bridge fell silent. On the screen, the Vex battlecruiser continued to hang in space, apparently unaffected. "Did it work?" Lisa asked after a moment. "Wait for it," Thomas replied, eyes on his console. "Their systems are more advanced. It takes longer for the package to unpack, and there." On the screen, the lights along the massive Vex ship flickered once, twice, then began to dim section by section, like a wave of darkness rolling through the vessel. "What's happening to them?" asked a young crew member. "The Pandora package is bigger for bigger scans," Emma explained. "They tried to take more data, so they got more in return. Their entire system is being flooded with humanity's darkest thoughts, fears, and creations." Jack watched the screen with a grim expression. The Meridians just got a sample. The Vex are getting the full library. The Vex ship was now almost completely dark, drifting slightly from its position. "Captain," Lisa called urgently. "Incoming transmission from the Vex ship. Audio only." "Put it through," Jack ordered. The sound that filled the bridge made everyone flinch. It was a scream, but not like any human scream. It was deeper, with harmonics that shouldn't be possible from a living throat. After the scream came words, spoken in a voice shaking with terror. "Make it stop. Make the children stop screaming. The blood, oceans of blood. World's ending. Monsters in the dark. How do you live with these thoughts? How do you sleep?" Jack signaled to cut the transmission. The bridge was silent again. "Their commander," Emma said quietly. The Vex linked their commanders directly to their ships. He experienced everything. "Captain," Lisa spoke again. "Message from the station. The elder representative is requesting to speak with you." Jack sighed. "Put them through." Saren's shifting face appeared on the screen, somehow looking both amused and concerned at the same time. "Captain Miller," the elder said, "it seems the Vex have learned the same lesson as the Meridians." "They scanned us without permission," Jack replied firmly. "Yes, they did," Saren agreed. "And now the most powerful military force in the Concordat is incapacitated. Their flagship drifts dark. Their high commander is indisposed." "We didn't ask for this," Jack said. "No," Saren replied, "but it has happened nonetheless. The council meeting tomorrow has taken on new importance, Captain. The Vex do not forget. The Meridians do not forgive. And the rest of us, we are very curious about a species whose mere thoughts can bring two of the mightiest races in the galaxy to their knees." The screen went dark again. Jack looked around at his crew, their faces showing the mixture of pride and concern. "Well," he said dryly, "I think we've made quite the first impression." "What happens now?" Thomas asked. Jack turned back to the screen, where the darkened Vex ship was now being approached by smaller vessels from the station. "Now we find out if the most advanced species in the galaxy can handle the truth about humanity," he replied. "That our greatest weapon isn't our technology. It's our imagination." The council chamber was nothing like Jack had expected. Instead of a formal room with seats and tables, it was a vast circular space with a pool of glowing blue liquid in the center. The representatives of the 12 most powerful species in the galaxy stood on platforms that floated above this pool, arranged in a circle. Jack and Emma were led to a small floating platform of their own. The human diplomatic team stood on another platform nearby, looking tense. "This doesn't feel like a fair trial," Jack whispered to Emma. "It's not meant to be," she replied. "It's a show of power." All around them, the alien representatives watched with expressions ranging from curiosity to open hostility. The Meridian platform was filled with blue-green figures who seemed to be standing as far from the human platforms as possible. The Vex platform was nearly empty. Only Cora stood there, its stone-like face showing tiny cracks that hadn't been there the day before. The elder, Saren, floated forward slightly. "The emergency session of the Concordat Council will now begin. The matter before us concerns the human vessels and their defensive capabilities." A Meridian stepped forward. "They used prohibited psychic weapons. 3 of our scan technicians remain in medical care. The Vex flagship is disabled. This cannot go unanswered." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Jack noticed that many of the species he didn't recognize were watching the humans with new interest. Cora of the Vex spoke next, its voice lower and rougher than before. "The Vex demand to know the nature of this human weapon. Our scans detected no energy weapons, no psychic technology. Yet our ship is crippled and our crew." The Vex paused, those cracks in its face seeming to deepen. "Our crew experiences continuing mental distress." Saren turned toward the human platforms. "Captain Miller, Dr. Reynolds, please explain to the council what happened when your ships were scanned." Jack stepped forward. He had prepared for this moment all night. "Thank you, Elder Saren. Members of the council, what happened to the Meridian and Vex scanning crews was not an attack. It was a defensive protocol that activates only when our ships are scanned without permission." "What kind of defense causes such mental distress?" demanded the Meridian representative. Jack looked to Emma, who nodded and stepped forward. "The Pandora defense system is not a weapon," she explained, her voice clear and steady. "It's a data package. When an unauthorized scan penetrates our systems, Pandora activates and sends information back through the same scanning beam." "What information?" asked a representative Jack didn't recognize, a being that seemed to be made of slowly swirling gas. Emma took a deep breath. "Human culture, specifically our entertainment, our history, our literature, focused on our darkest imaginings, horror stories, war documentaries, fictional monsters, apocalyptic scenarios." Confused murmurs filled the chamber. "You expect us to believe that mere stories caused this damage?" The Meridian representative scoffed. "I can explain further," Emma continued. Humans have a unique relationship with fear and imagination. Throughout our history, we've created entertainment that explores our darkest fears. We imagine terrible things happening to ourselves. We create fictional monsters worse than anything we've encountered. We visualize our own extinction in hundreds of different ways. The chamber had grown quiet. Every alien representative now focused on Emma's words. When your scanning systems connected to our ships, they received a compressed data package containing thousands of years of these imaginings. Your neural interfaces, designed to help your operators process scanned data, instead forced them to experience human nightmares all at once. Cora stepped forward, the cracks in its face now clearly visible. You are saying that these thoughts, these entertainments, they come from your minds? Willingly? Jack nodded. We create them. We watch them. We read them. For fun. The silence in the chamber was complete. For fun, repeated the Meridian representative, voice barely audible. You imagine your own destruction, for enjoyment. Not just destruction, Emma clarified. We imagine survival too. Overcoming. Enduring. But yes, the scenarios we create are often dark, frightening, and violent. Why? Asked a small, insect-like being from another platform. Why would you do this to yourselves? Jack considered the question carefully. Because it prepares us. Humans face our fears by imagining them first. We've found that those who can imagine the worst are often the most ready when real danger comes. Emma added, our entertainment doesn't just imagine victory and success. We imagine defeat, suffering, horror, everything that could happen to us. We prepare for it all. A new voice spoke, deep and resonant. It came from a tall, plant-like being with glowing spores floating around its head. I have studied many species, it said. None have evolved this trait to such a degree. To voluntarily expose yourselves to fear and horror, it changes neural pathways. It builds resilience. And weaponizes your minds, Cora added bitterly. Not weapons, Jack insisted. Defense. We don't broadcast these thoughts. We don't force them on anyone. They only affect those who try to enter our systems without permission. Saren's shifting form seemed to brighten slightly. The question before the council is not whether the humans should be punished. They've followed our laws. The question is what we should learn from this incident. The Meridian representative wasn't satisfied. They may have followed the letter of the law, but their defense causes harm beyond what is reasonable. No scan should result in such trauma. Then don't scan us without asking, Jack said simply. Several of the alien representatives made sounds that might have been laughter. The plant-like being spoke again. I propose a study. Human imagination appears to have unique properties we could learn much from. No, Cora interrupted. No more scans. No more studies. The Vex turned to face Jack directly. We have existed for millions of your years, human. We have fought wars across galaxies. We have seen species rise and fall. But never have we encountered minds like yours. Cora's cracked face seemed to shift slightly, almost like an expression of pain. In our ship's database, we found a human term. Nightmare. We have no equivalent word in our language. The concept did not exist for us until yesterday. Emma's eyes widened. You're saying the Vex don't have nightmares. You don't imagine bad things happening. We plan for failure, Cora replied. We calculate risks, but we do not create horror for ourselves. We do not imagine monsters that do not exist. We do not visualize our own suffering in detail. Jack looked around the chambers, studying the alien representatives. How many of you have entertainment that focuses on fear, on horror, on imagining the worst things that could happen to your species? One by one, the representatives indicated negation. Head shakes, tentacle waves, light patterns changing. None of you, Jack said softly. That's why Pandora works so well. You've never built up a tolerance to the kind of thoughts humans live with every day. The chamber fell silent again as the implications sank in. Finally, Saren spoke. The Council will consider what we have learned today. Until then, a new protocol is established. No scans of human vessels without explicit permission. No studies of human thought patterns without careful preparation. The Elder's shifting gaze focused on Jack. Humanity may be young among the stars, Captain Miller, but you have much to teach us about the power of the mind, both its strengths and its dangers. As the council session ended and Jack and Emma were escorted back toward their ship, Jack noticed how the other species now moved aside as they passed, creating a wide berth around the humans. "They're afraid of us," Emma whispered. "No," Jack replied. "They're afraid of what's in our heads. And maybe that's not a bad thing." 3 days after the council meeting, the Defiant prepared to leave the Concordat station. The ship had been resupplied, and the crew was ready to return to Earth with news of their unexpected diplomatic impact. Jack stood on the bridge, watching as the final checks were completed. The mood among the crew was mixed. Pride in how they had stood their ground, but concern about the long-term consequences of their first meeting with the galaxy's most powerful species. "All systems ready," Captain Thomas reported from his station. "We can depart as soon as the station clears us." "Any word on the Vex ship?" Jack asked. Emma looked up from her console. "Their systems are back online. Most of their crew has recovered, though their commander is still undergoing some kind of mental treatment." Jack nodded, feeling a twinge of regret. He hadn't wanted things to go this way. "And the Meridians?" "All 3 technicians are conscious again," Emma replied. "But they've requested reassignment away from human space." The communications panel beeped. Lissa answered, then turned to Jack with surprise on her face. "Captain, we're receiving a request to board from the Elder representative." Jack raised his eyebrows. "Saren wants to come aboard." "Yes, sir." "Alone, apparently." Jack exchanged glances with Emma. The Elders rarely interacted directly with other species, especially not on their ships. "Grant permission," Jack decided. "I'll meet our guest at the airlock." Saren's shifting form seemed even stranger inside the human ship. The corridor lights reflected off the Elder's constantly changing surface, casting unusual patterns on the walls. "Thank you for allowing this visit, Captain," Saren said as they walked. "Few have hosted an Elder on their vessel." "We're honored," Jack replied. "Though I admit, I'm curious about the reason." Saren's form rippled in what might have been amusement. "Direct. Humans usually are. I wish to speak with you before you depart, away from the politics of the Council and the fears of the other species." Jack led the Elder to a small conference room rather than the bridge. Some parts of the ship were still classified, even after everything that had happened. When they were seated, Saren's form settled slightly, becoming almost solid. "Do you know why the Elders supported humanity's invitation to the Concordat, Captain?" Jack shook his head. "I assumed it was because of our rapid expansion, or perhaps our technology." "No," Saren said. "Your technology is functional, but not impressive by Concordat standards. Your expansion is notable but not unprecedented." The Elder leaned forward slightly. "We were interested in your stories." "Our stories," Jack repeated, confused. "Yes, for many cycles, we have observed human transmissions. Your entertainment, your news, your fictional worlds." Saren's form shimmered. "At first, we were simply puzzled. Why would a species create images of their own destruction? Why imagine horrors that do not exist? Why visualize pain and suffering and fear?" Jack smiled slightly. "As I explained to the Council, it helps us prepare." "No," Saren interrupted gently. "That is what you tell yourselves. But there is more to it than preparation." The Elder rose and moved to the small viewport, looking out at the stars. "The species that survive longest in this galaxy, Captain, are those that can adapt. Not just physically, but mentally. Those that can imagine new possibilities, even terrible ones, and then work to prevent them. You're saying our imagination is an evolutionary advantage?" More than that, Saren turned back to face him. It is rare. Most species evolve to avoid pain, to avoid fear. They develop technologies to eliminate suffering, to prevent negative thoughts. They become comfortable, safe. The elder's voice took on a hint of sadness, and then they stagnate. Jack considered this, and humans don't do that. Humans, Saren said, run toward the dark. You create it in your entertainment. You explore it in your art. You face it in your thoughts. And then, this is the crucial part. You work to overcome it. You imagine 1,000 apocalypses, and then you fight to prevent them all. Jack wasn't sure what to say. He'd never thought of human imagination as particularly special. The incident with the Pandora system has created quite a stir among the Concordat species, Saren continued. Some fear you. Some wish to study you. Some wish to avoid you entirely. And the elders? Jack asked. What do you think we should do? Saren's form rippled again. We think you should continue being human. Continue imagining. Continue creating your stories, both dark and light. The elder moved closer. But be careful who you share them with. As you have seen, not all minds are prepared for the places yours can go. A gentle chime sounded, indicating the ship was ready for departure. I should go, Saren said. But before I leave, there is something you should know. What's that? The Vex commander, Cora, after experiencing your Pandora system, it asked for human stories. Voluntarily. Jack blinked in surprise. What? Why? It said, to understand the enemy, one must think like them. Saren's form shimmered in what seemed like amusement. But I suspect there is more to it. The Vex have existed for millions of years without facing their deepest fears. Perhaps they sense what we elders have observed, that there is strength in confronting the darkness, not just avoiding it. As Jack escorted Saren back to the airlock, the elder had one final comment. There will be new protocols established for all Concordat vessels approaching human ships. No scans without explicit permission. Filtered data exchanges only. Special buffer systems for all communications. Sounds sensible, Jack agreed. Indeed, though I suspect the real rule, spoken quietly among captains, will be simpler. Saren's form rippled with what was definitely amusement now. Don't peek into the humans' minds. You won't like what you find there. As the Defiant pulled away from the station and prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed, Jack gathered the crew for a final briefing. Our mission has changed, he told them. We came here looking for allies, for technology, for trade. We're leaving as something else entirely. What's that, Captain? Asked the young crew member who had been so surprised by the Pandora system. Jack smiled slightly. A mystery, a warning, a species that the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy have decided to treat with caution, not because of our weapons or our ships, but because of what's in our minds. Emma joined him at the front of the room. Earth Command will want a full report on the Pandora incidents. They'll want to know how the aliens reacted, what we should expect going forward. And what will you tell them? Thomas asked. Jack looked around at his crew, humans all, with minds full of dreams and nightmares, hopes and fears, light and darkness. I'll tell them that humanity has found its place in the galaxy, he said. Not as the strongest or the fastest or the most advanced, but as the species that dares to imagine the worst and then works to make sure it never happens. As the Defiant jumped to FTL, heading back to Earth, the story of the human ships, and why they should never be scanned, began spreading throughout the galaxy. In diplomatic circles, a new saying emerged among the advanced species: to know the human mind unprepared is to lose one's own. And aboard their ships, human crews continued watching horror movies, reading frightening stories, and imagining all the ways things could go wrong. Never realizing that this simple habit, this relationship with fear and imagination, had become their greatest defense among the stars.